What's up, everyone? Welcome to Wrestling is Fiction, the ultimate WWE fan fiction podcast. I'm your host, Zach Hannigan, and with me, as always, is my tag team partner, Darkstar Shady. On this show, we don't just talk about WWE, we create it. Every week, we dive into the latest WWE news and then take it to the next level with our own original wrestling stories and matches. From shocking betrayals to dream showdowns, we write the kind of epic moments that wrestling fans live for. So if you're ready for some over-the-top wrestling action with a twist of fiction, you've come to the right place. Step inside the squared circle and let's get into it.
What's up, everyone? Before we get into today's episode, it's time to go through a few of our sponsors. First off, you can head to darkstarshady.com/wrestlingisfiction to find links to everywhere that you can listen to us. From there, you can head to our sponsors page where you'll find a few different links. First off, you'll find the official sponsor of Wrestling is Fiction, Gengar's TCG shop on TikTok. He sells Pokemon cards through his TikTok shop, and he also does live rip and ships where you can have him open cards live on a stream for his audience and mail you your pulls afterwards. I've also partnered with a company called W. They make gaming energy drinks. If you go to w.gg and use code DARKSTAR10, you'll get 10% off your next order. I recommend the Galaxy Grenade flavor, which is watermelon, guava, and lime. I bought a few of their shaker bottles and multiple tubs of their energy drink powders, and I take a drink to work with me almost every day, and it gives me the jitterless energy I need to get through each day. Let's get to today's episode.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Not a ton of fan fiction for you this episode because it's not a double episode. We are actually back on track here. So we'll go ahead and get right into our recap, thoughts, and opinions on this last week in WWE. And so I suppose we should start with the last SmackDown and Roman Reigns again single-handedly destroying the Bloodline.
Yeah, he didn't even have to say anything to get the crowd to pop for him, 3-4 times? Probably louder than they pop for anyone but maybe Cody.
I'm disappointed he didn't speak. I think he is great on the microphone, and I wanted to see Solo just get absolutely schooled on it. But I get it. He's not saying much right now because I think everyone knows what he's back for.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of people out there that do think that he's kind of weak on the mic, but I think he's gotten better and better over the years, and yeah, I'm very excited for him to actually say something to Solo.
I never thought he was weak on the mic. His jokes fell flat a lot, but as he got more and more heat as the tribal chief and having Paul Heyman with him, I definitely think he's gotten better.
Yeah.
One of my favorite promos of all time when he just told Cody, I think you're an idiot.
Yeah. And I do have to say, creative itself has gotten so much better over the years that that's probably playing a large part in how much better his promos are now.
Also,
too,
speaking of single-handedly, Roman Reigns goes in there, obviously takes out most of the Bloodline, sans Jacob Fatu, which is probably going to be the showdown that we all want to see. But Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're all the ones who beat Roman, and yet somehow he's more powerful than a bunch of, B-list SmackDown superstars.
And secondly, I think it's nice that we're going to see Randy Orton and Kevin Owens not fighting the Bloodline at a PLE or on SmackDown every week.
Yeah, it's about time they've finally let them do something different. I have a lot of thoughts on Kevin Owens that we'll get back to in a little bit once we're done with this, but yeah, it's nice to have the story change a bit.
So, outside of Roman Reigns, if we're thinking ahead to Cody Rhodes title run. We know he's facing Kevin Owens at Bash in Berlin, but who do you want to see him face?
See, that's the problem is I literally pulled up the entire SmackDown roster the other day, and I went through the entire roster just like looking who could be a challenger for Cody. Roman. Like, that's the problem is there's no one either believable or built up enough, or there's no heels on SmackDown.
And the two others are probably Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, which...
Yeah. If they give him some time and some more matches, I think Jacob Fatu would be a great match for Cody. Much, much better than Solo.
Well, they're going to have to figure out the bloodline thing before Cody goes after either of them.
Yeah. I think Carmelo Hayes would be another match they could run back. He's had a little more experience on the main roster at this point. And I'm still really surprised that his opening match was not a title match when he came out pointing at the title asking for the shot. Like, he's obviously not going to win it, but just give Cody some one-off matches, even if it's just a random defense he's going to do well on SmackDown.
On principle, they didn't want to give a new guy a title shot right away. So,
oh yeah, that makes sense, but they wrote the promo as if it was going to be a title match that night. But other than that, there's just no one on SmackDown.
I wouldn't mind another Logan Paul matchup. Obviously more than the one-off they did. Kind of draw it out a little longer. But yeah, SmackDown seems to have a lack of star power outside of the bloodline. And Cody Rhodes, and I mean, one of their biggest stars, Randy Orton, is now fighting for the title on Raw.
Yeah, Logan Paul would be a good one because if they built that into an actual feud and not just a one-off where in Saudi Arabia we need Logan on the show match, I think that they could have a lot of fun going back and forth with each other, especially with how easily Logan Paul gets heat from everyone.
Very easy to hate, yeah.
It would take some real build-up and a big character shift, but Austin Theory could put on a good match with Cody just because he is so good in the ring, even though he hasn't really connected with a lot with his current character.
I feel like since Austin Theory lost his United States title, he hasn't gotten bigger matches. In fact, I think he's been kind of taken down on the roster to less serious roles.
Yeah, I think it's a easy way to shift him from heel to being less serious towards the face eventually. But it's been such a long, drawn-out experience that they just need to pull the trigger already and let him turn on Grayson or let Grayson turn on him. I think we do know who is getting the next title shot after Kevin Owens, though. You got that beautiful promo on SmackDown. It's obviously Giovanni Vinci.
Yeah, okay. Does that move the needle for SmackDown?
I guess Shinsuke is on the SmackDown roster. Not that you've seen him in months, but I don't know how they go
for you. Why don't we stop messing around and SmackDown brings up an NXT guy with a bunch of heat? What about Mr. Joe Hendry?
I think they're basically writing all of NXT around him right now. I don't know if they can bring him up.
I mean, you have everywhere. Trick Williams as well.
Yeah, Trick Williams
get a bunch of viewers, but it'd be an exciting guy on their roster.
Yeah, I don't know. Trick Williams is both ready and needs a little more work at the same time.
Bron Breakker would have been nice for the SmackDown to keep.
Yeah. Literally, when they did this draft, I don't even think they thought about the fact that they had no one on SmackDown. And I'm very interested to see how big of a shift we get in the rosters when everything moves over to Netflix. And if that becomes their number one show that they try to move their bigger stars to.
It's hard, right? Because SmackDown seems to always have the biggest star at the moment, whether it's Roman Reigns or Cody Rhodes. But after that,
Yeah, there was a weird shift where SmackDown became the top show out of the two for a while there. But since Roman's been gone, at least, the Raw storytelling has been just levels above SmackDown to the point where it's very clearly becoming the better show again. So the Netflix deal is going to make it really interesting to see. Do we move Bloodline and Cody over to Raw, where they'll hopefully get a bigger exposure from just the built-in user base of Netflix? So that's going to be really interesting next year, just to see how they shift their stuff creatively based on where they're broadcasting. And it's also weird that there's not going to be I guess there's NXT, but there's not going to be a weekly, just regular televised show that's not cable or subscription now. SmackDown's always been kind of easily accessible for people. That's how I watched it as a kid, is it was just on broadcast television.
it's kind of the way the TV industry is moving.
Yeah.
And the amount of money I'm sure they're making from the deal made it pretty easy to sign.
Oh, yeah. And then I guess we'll have NXT on the CW at least. Which is
which is good for those guys, because that seems to going to be your average wrestling fan what they access.
Yeah, and honestly, NXT is very easy to get into, and Shawn Michaels does a great job with the writing there. And kind of just circling back, you said that you don't know that Trick Williams would move the needle, but if you remember when he popped up on SmackDown once for Carmelo Hayes, he got a huge pop from the SmackDown crowd, so I wouldn't be surprised if he did draw a little attention there as well.
We'll see. Anyway, you said you have a lot to say about a certain superstar, and now you've piqued my interest.
Yeah, it's just... Okay, so I've seen a lot of opinions online about how Kevin Owens is playing the babyface role perfectly by trying to turn down a title shot. But I just don't know that I agree with that, because I don't agree with any of that whole storyline promo that they did to give Kevin that title shot, because why would Cody just be like, I'm forcing this upon you, Kevin? Like, it wasn't even like a, hey, do you want a shot at my title? I know you've been working hard for it. It's, you're going to take this title shot, and we're going to threaten you in a way that you'll have to accept it. Like, the only reason Kevin accepted is because they're like, oh, we'll just call Roman then.
I have. My issue with it is the Kevin Owens that I know and have watched, heel or face, would never turn down a title opportunity.
Yeah.
And now it makes me feel like no wonder the Bloodline's been whooping your ass. You're not the same guy.
Yeah. I read, like, one tweet that talked about how he respects Cody so much he doesn't want to, like, step up his game to really put on a big match against him, basically. And that just seems stupid. Because how many other matches have there been where it is a friendly title match where they still give it their all to try and get the title, because that is the top prize. That is why they're all there. So I don't understand why, if you're given a title shot, you'd bring up your own win-loss record and say, no, I don't need it. I don't want it.
Half of Bayley's run was matches against friends.
Yeah.
So, I don't have a problem with KO getting a title shot. I agree with you. The way they went about it was weird. It's like they decided they needed a main event for Bash in Berlin. So they were like, can't be Roman quite yet. Let's give it to Kevin Owens. Randy Orton's busy on Raw. It seems that they're going to make a storyline out of Cody and Randy at some point.
Yeah. Did you see, I don't know if you saw, there was something that came out today that Randy Orton actually said he wants his retirement match to be against Cody. I just saw that on
Randy
Twitter
Orton
like an hour or two ago.
That we need Cena and Orton again before we get Rhodes and Orton.
Yeah. Yeah, so hopefully we'll be getting that next year. John Cena said he's going to be doing, 35, 36 shows in 2025?
We'll see how that looks. People say a lot of things, so
Yeah,
I'm curious to see what he's actually going to be doing.
and hopefully it's not 35 or 36 losses to Solo Sikoa. I'm hoping they give John Cena an actual good final run where he has some good matches and some good wins again. Because every time he's popped up in the last couple of years, it has been just to put over people that don't deserve it.
And he knows that. I think we will get a couple good rivalries out of this. There's still a bunch of guys left that have history with Cena.
And I think John Cena and Cody Rhodes would be a great match, too. Just kind of a passing of the torch moment from John Cena to the next big baby face in the company.
Yeah, it would be a good match, but I'm wondering how necessary it is.
I mean, I don't know if any of his final run is going to be necessary, so... But yeah, no. Going back to SmackDown, I absolutely have no problem with Kevin Owens having a title shot. I just hate the way they wrote it in. It felt awkward and forced.
That's the conclusion that most WWE fans are at right now.
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping no one's like, yeah, I love the way this was done.
It was just not a solid opening for SmackDown, no.
No, it was... I texted you too. Like, I watched SmackDown the next day and I texted you immediately. Just, I hate the way this opened. Cody Rhodes coming out and just like, I don't want to talk about SummerSlam. Let's just move on completely. Like, he very obviously got interrupted pretty quickly, but why would he do that? Are they like
White Gunther just didn't talk about the Intercontinental title ever again and just moved right on.
Yeah,
I think they needed a way for Cody to put aside the bloodline stuff for now. No, it was not done very well.
No, they should have just opened the show with a promo backstage of Cody and Kevin Owens talking about a title shot rather than opening it with him in the ring and the bloodline getting chased off so they can't really interact much.
Would have been better, yeah.
Or just don't even acknowledge Cody or any of it until the bloodline gets taken out by Roman Reigns.
Speaking of promos, moving on to Raw now. I sent you one on Instagram. The Bron Breakker promo before he enters his match against Sammy is so fucking cool to me. I'm like, this is a great character for him right now, and he's a lot better cutting those promos than I remember him being, especially during his early days in NXT. And then he goes out there and, I mean, puts on a hell of a match. I actually thought he was going to hurt Sammy when he picked him up and threw him into those fucking seats. I was like, where is Samantha Irvin?
Yeah, she was like, I'm getting far, far away from here because Sammy's body's literally flying at my chair.
Yeah.
But no, like, and he got the crowd behind him really quickly. Like, he went from just having like 30-second squash matches to putting on great matches with Sammy and getting the crowd actually behind him and fired up.
That Raw audience lately has been out for blood. Bronson Reed killing people and then chanting one more. Especially Seth Rollins and R-Truth, like really big faces in there. And now they're
really
like
big fan favorites. They're like, kill him.
Want Bron Breakker to kill Sami Zayn.
Raw is definitely stepping it up overall, just in terms of intensity, the promos. The crowds have been amazing as well. I don't know. I think American crowds in general have had to step it up since some of the international PLEs, and they have been for the most part. They've been a lot more lively and excited.
American crowds, I will say, are more discerning, being that we get it almost every week.
Yeah. But no, Bron Breakker put on a great match. Him and Sammy with the 2 out of 3 falls match. Like, you don't get that match very often. And I like the way they built it around it.
Also nice to see Sammy obviously not win, but get a measure of respect back and have a really good match against them versus what they had at SummerSlam.
Yeah. I'm interested to see where Sammy goes if they do try to pivot him towards a Bloodline storyline again or a tag run with Jay. But at least he didn't go out just not thinking about his title again like everyone else has.
And I wanted to ask you this with Jey Uso. Are we really down to just 30-second promos backstage? What is next for Jey Uso? That's
Yeah,
that's what I wanted to say to you. Before we came on, we were talking about tag teams, and I think it's that Jay and Sammy are going to get a matchup against the Judgment Day.
yeah. It was what, 2 weeks ago they mentioned that
Yeah,
when Sammy was saying he had a rematch coming up. So hopefully they do get that title match because Judgment Day hasn't done anything since winning those titles other than show up separately with them.
I
Like
think they
Finn
had
and
one
JD,
sense.
have they?
I thought they did.
Because like Finn and JD the last couple weeks haven't even come out together. JD's been coming out, or Finn's come out separately.
Well, I think that's also part of them running scared of. I guess we're calling them the Terror Twins now.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a lot of thoughts there as well. I love Damian Priest. He did a great championship run. Rhea Ripley's obviously one of the best there is right now. But how in the world am I supposed to believe that Damian Priest fought off the entire Judgment Day on his own?
Particularly when major champions weren't able to do that.
Yeah, like, he literally just eyes in the back of his head, gets attacked, and he's like, oh, that's fine, I'll take out all of you right now.
I also don't like how they're writing Carlito with the Judgment Day. Like, when he made his comeback with Rey Mysterio, I mean, and even before that in his younger days, Carlito was a major superstar. Now he's just like this guy. He's playing JD McDonough's role when JD first came into the Judgment Day.
Yeah, like, I love the comedic moments that he's giving us, but he is a lot better in the ring. Like, he had some great U.S. title feuds when he first started. He can put on great matches, and he gets the crowd behind him. Like, the crowd loves Carlito still.
I
And
love Carlito, and the comedic portion for him is great. He's kind of always been that. But I wish they made him a little bit more formidable in his matches.
Yeah, but when you have Carlito, JD, Finn, and Dominic, like, there's no way that Damian shouldn't at least get worn out a little bit more.
And they're also obviously leading to some kind of showdown with Finn Balor and Damian Priest. And if they want it to be a believably good match, Finn Balor needs to start looking a little stronger than he has been.
Yeah, like, they gave him a title to make him look a little more relevant, but they're not writing him in a way that he seems strong still. And the same with Liv Morgan. She just beat Rhea Ripley, and yet she still is running scared constantly and can't get a single good hit in on her. Like, I've seen a lot online of people saying Triple H is just protecting his favorites and refuses to let Rhea look weak for even a moment, or refuses to let Damian at the moment look weak for even a moment, when believably the two of them should not be able to fight off an entire faction on their own.
Okay, here's my question for you. I've thought about this. Does Braun Strowman now join Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley and continue to chase what's left of the Judgment Day around the arena? I mean, well, if they did throw Braun Strowman into this story, then it's believable that the Judgment Day has no chance.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is they don't need him right now because Damian Priest can stand in the middle of the ring and take all of them out. If he was getting beat down a little bit, I could see Braun Strowman being like, I'm so sick of these guys, and running down the entrance ramp to save them.
Is with JD McDonough over now?
Like, I just want to see a little more dominance from Judgment Day, I guess. Especially if they're strong enough to keep the name and kick two of the bigger members out. How are they not strong enough to put up a solid fight?
I think they will. It's all about, I think, the two be traded to get one good week on them. We know we're getting the tag match at Bash in Berlin. And so I'm sure over the next couple weeks you will see the heels kind of do the sneak attacks and things. And to address the Liv Morgan point, I don't know that running away makes her look weak. To me, it's her whole game and getting into Rhea's head. It worked to take down the Judgment Day. It worked to get the world title. So I kind of think her whole thing is to get Rhea frustrated.
Yeah, I want to see them have a moment where they have to be built back up for a week even. I just want to see them struggle, I guess.
And going back to Damian Priest taking out the whole Judgment Day, I don't know why I couldn't stop laughing when Dominic tried to go up and do this crossbody and gets caught. And Pat McAfee, for 2 straight minutes, just roasting Dom. What the hell did he think he was going to do?
Yeah, that wasn't his best moment. Wasn't his best moment. That's all I can say about that one. But thankfully, Liv was there to pull him out of the ring before he got hit with the Riptide.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I think I know your answer, but we have the Alba Fire and Isla Dawn title run now. But I want to talk about their intro. They have one of the coolest intros in WWE, and I'm trying to think of one that's better right now. Obviously, the Wyatt Six, but I feel like we got to eliminate them because they're their own thing.
I love their intro. Like, they're really cool together. I obviously love Cody's intro, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily... Like, he just has a great song and a great crowd reaction, but I wouldn't say he has necessarily a really cool entrance.
Well, when Drew used to bring out the sword...
Yeah, I mentioned that the other day. Like, I was watching with Maggie and Liz, and at times we do refer to Drew McIntyre as Sword Boy. But he has not been carrying his sword for how long now?
You might have hurt his feelings.
That, or he just doesn't want to have to travel with it all the time anymore. I'm sure it's not easy to get through.
Pain in the ass.
Yeah. But I don't know. I can't think of like really, really cool entrances at the moment. Like,
regardless,
Judgment Day doesn't come out together anymore, so you don't get to see them as a group entering. Like I said, the Wyatt Six is probably the coolest entrance, but that doesn't compare to anyone right now. Final Testament. I like their black and white entrance. I don't know why. I just really like that.
But Paul Ellering with this random X on his head this last week. I'm just like, you don't need to do that. We get it, man. Regardless, it's nice to see Alba and Fire look strong. You talked about this to me before we came on air. And, kind of handle what seemed to be 2 pretty big women's factions.
Yeah, so now we'll be getting like a triple threat title match, which I'm hoping they can manage to retain those titles because I would like to see them hold on to them a little longer.
I don't see them losing simply because I think they want to continue this. God, what are they called? Something Fusion now. The Sonya Deville. Pure
something. Whatever it is probably one
Collective,
of the worst faction names I could have thought of.
Pure Fusion Collective.
Yeah. Oh, God. Okay. I hate that so much, honestly.
Yeah, I didn't love it. I thought they could have done a lot better. But them and Damage Control seem to have a good rivalry going. And is Dakota Kai hurt again? I don't know.
Everything online says 8 to 10 weeks with a torn meniscus.
And this is why she doesn't get a push that everyone begs for. She does one thing and gets injured again.
Yeah, I can't believe she's out again.
So, I mean, maybe since she's out, they do put the titles on the 2 Damage Control ladies.
The only 2 left.
Yeah, and let them run around with them. But, yeah, good to see Alba and Fire get the push. If you're an NXT fan, you kind of know. I don't know that I would call them dominant on that show, but they had a mystique about them. And at one point, I think during Halloween Havoc one year, they were literally cursing people.
So. Yeah, that was pretty cool. And then Alpha Fire was a very long reigning singles champion, and so they are like good wrestlers. I just don't understand why they were brought up and not used for so long as a team.
I also just love hearing them talk with both their accents so thick that you only catch every 2 or 3 words.
Oh yeah, same. And then for Raw, just the opening again, it was we had Randy and Gunther out there. I don't even remember if this was the actual opening, it's just the first thing on the Bleacher Report list. But Randy and Gunther came out. Why in the world did that turn into a Drew and Punk segment? Did they have no other way to write them all in to the show?
I get why Drew was there. He wants his title shot.
Yeah, but he didn't even get a chance to say anything, do anything.
With Adam Pearce. I'll handle this for you. I'll get Randy out of here. Yeah, and how come every time Punk attacks Drew McIntyre from behind, it's always Pearce telling Drew he's not here? At this point, this is lying on purpose.
Yeah, and then the Kathy Kelly interview where she was like, were we not on the same flight? And he's like, we were. I sat next to you. But yeah, and we're at the point now where CM Punk is continuously beating him from behind. And commentary is still like, oh my god, he's such a baby face. He needs this moment.
Well, the thing is, the rivalry's been so huge now, the only time they can really have a match is at a PLE.
Yeah.
But I will say it is losing steam with there being nothing on the line for Drew McIntyre. I just think it was so good when he would get a title opportunity and it would be taken from him like that. So,
I think they need to spread out their appearances a little more, or
I do think they want to get CM Punk a win against Drew, but CM Punk a match on Raw period would be great.
Yeah, just give both of them separate matches just to kind of build each other up. Have one of them have Punk on commentary for Drew's match. Have Drew on commentary for Punk's match. Let them stare each other down. They don't have to constantly be beating each other in the middle of someone else's promos. Especially when the other two just kind of disappeared. They're like, we have to deal with these guys again. Let's just roll out of the ring and leave together.
Mr. Get in the middle of everyone's title shot, Bronson Reed, seems to be getting something now, some form of a push. I mean, Seth Rollins, and then a win against The Miz.
Yeah,
is pretty
backstage
big
moment.
Weeks.
I got you a title match against Braun. Yeah. That's Bronson Reed. Oh, ain't that the guy that killed Seth Rollins? Then Randy comes up. Isn't that the guy that killed Seth Rollins?
Or then my favorite, them hyping him up. In truth, do you really think you got this? Randy just laughs and walks away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess it's leading to what? An Intercontinental title shot?
Maybe, but Bronson Reed hasn't had interest in Intercontinental Championship in the last couple title matches where he hasn't interfered in, so...
Yeah.
He's taking out people that make him seem like he wants to go for the World Heavyweight Championship, but The Miz is not in that picture. And I guess we're just completely forgetting about the fact that him and R-Truth wanted the tag titles back.
Well, it seems that they're on the way to breaking them up.
I mean, they don't have to. R-Truth just got killed.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, if they don't write him out somehow after having to write Seth out for the same attack...
I'm sure they will. I just like seeing The Miz as a face for once. I know he's great at being a heel, but...
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if they put him in one of the title pictures again now that R-Truth is internal bleeding and every rib broken, and I don't know. And then I guess the only other big thing is the New Day going to break up after all these years?
I would hate to see it, and I like the Final Testament, but I would hate to see it because Karrion Kross told Xavier Woods all this. And I don't get why Xavier Woods would be so upset about having another Big E in the group.
Yeah, especially when they need someone else when they're being attacked constantly.
They're smaller guys, too. So
like I wasn't expecting the anger on his side, just the why are you bringing someone else in?
I don't know. I like it. I don't want to see the New Day ever broken up. I know every faction eventually does, but I think that's what's cool about the New Day is they haven't.
Yeah, it'd be very strange to see them get split apart at this point. And I know I said one last thing, but there's a dog behind you.
Dog.
There's a dog behind you. Ivy Nile attacked Maxine Dupree and slammed her on the commentary table.
I thought you'd say that. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for Ivy Nile to go into American Made, which is, by the way, a way better faction title than whatever the Fusion people came up with.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Ivy Nile fits that description of this all-American wrestler. So she's perfect for them. I hate every time Maxine gets attacked, though. Because, I mean, they need to add somebody else to Alpha Academy. Because I'm sorry, Tozawa, as talented as he is in the ring, he's so small.
It was so unbelievable watching him have a couple moments of dominance in that match
against the Creed brothers, who are both massive individuals.
Yeah.
So yeah, if they're going to keep Alpha Academy around, I really think they need to add somebody else.
Yeah, I don't know who that person is at the moment, but anyone, Kurt Angle,
Xavier Woods, who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think that's most of the highlight points from Raw and SmackDown. I'm trying to just flip through my notes and recap pages that I have up to see if there was anything else, but that seems to be it.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
And I want this to be on air. Am I crazy? Gunther is not German, right? He's Austrian, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, so Randy coming out and calling him a big-ass German or whatever he called him. He mentioned German twice, and I guess Gunther was being nice, but Gunther should have corrected him on the mic.
Okay, so he is not German, but his character he plays is German.
Okay, yeah. I guess that they're sticking with that then.
Yeah, so he's Austrian.
I knew he wasn't German, so I don't think that's right.
I just had to look it up. So they're really playing up the Bash in Berlin as being a homecoming for him because the character of Gunther is German, and that's how Imperium became a thing.
In fact, I think is Ludwig Kaiser. I don't know if he's German either.
He is. He is German.
Is he only actual German?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no. And
then they got rid of the Italian man.
Well, they had to. They had to.
No Italians allowed.
I'm so confused about the fact that we just mentioned
Tony D'Angelo family rivalry with Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser for kicking out the Italian.
Zach, are you trying to start a world war again?
Well, if they were on the same team.
How weird is it that we mentioned
Irish guys together?
How weird is it we mentioned Giovanni Vinci not showing up on anything and suddenly he got a random promo on SmackDown, though?
It's the power of wrestling is fiction. They say they don't listen, but either their AI or their FBI agents are listening in on us.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me because there's been way too many things that we've mentioned that have been immediately cleared up right after our recordings.
Well, I'll tell you what they're not going to do is have the same Raw and SmackDown as us, because I think we're getting ready to get into those, aren't we?
Yeah, I've got my notes up right here for my SmackDown episode. They look a lot longer than they are. I'm probably going to fly through a couple of these. But no, yeah, we've got my SmackDown for August 16th, I believe. I'm having to look at my calendar as I'm saying this out
Yeah,
loud.
that is tomorrow.
All right, so SmackDown opens up the show with a tag team match that was brought up last week, and it's going to be Natalya and Tegan Nox against Liv Morgan and Stephanie McMahon. And this is going to be one of the ones I kind of just fly through. It's a pretty back and forth match. Liv and Stephanie kind of keep a lot of the advantage up until near the end of the match when there's a little bit of a miscommunication, and Stephanie doesn't let Liv tag her. She kind of just like gets out of the way for a moment, thinking that Liv is just trying to go back towards the corner, and as Liv gets distracted by trying to find Stephanie, who kind of just jumped off the apron, Natalya rolls up Liv and gets the 3 count on her. She actually pins the champion there, and Natalya and Tegan Nox get that first win to open the show.
Oh, wow. Big win for Natalya there.
Yeah, and you can kind of see the frustration on Liv Morgan's face as she's looking at Stephanie, and Stephanie's like, oh, my bad. Didn't mean to do that.
Liv Morgan, a taste of her own medicine.
Yeah, no, she wasn't expecting that. They've been kind of friendly since Stephanie made her reappearance, and this is kind of a weird misstep for the two of them. And then that'll lead us into a little backstage promo after the break, where Ludwig Kaiser is talking to Gunther. And he's talking to him about how he wants to get into the U.S. title picture, but he's already been back and forth with Jay so often, he doesn't know how to get his title shot over everyone else that's in the picture. And both of them get attacked backstage by Dijak. He just comes around a corner and just clotheslines Ludwig from behind, starts kicking into Gunther, and he actually has a pretty good showing, and he takes Gunther down before security gets him.
Dijak is such an angry man.
That's all he's there for, is just to be angry, honestly. And this will take us into our first singles match of the night, which is Zelina Vega and Gigi Dolan. Gigi Dolan starts out pretty aggressive, actually. She's had a lot of big losses, and she's ready to change that. Starts out pretty strong. She's getting some good strikes in. Hits a pretty good slam on Zelina Vega, actually. But Zelina Vega just, she speeds it up a little bit. She starts moving faster. She's pretty small, so she can get around Gigi pretty easily. And she just picks up the speed, and she starts countering a lot of what Gigi's trying to do. And she hits a swinging DDT on Gigi to really pull momentum onto her side. And kind of after that, she just doesn't really get back into the match, and Zelina's just running circles around her to the point where she hits her code red and gets the pinfall over Gigi.
If I'm not mistaken, I think this is the first Gigi Dolan appearance since her disastrous Money in the Bank ladder match.
Yeah, she hasn't been back. She wasn't really in too many of the things after that. A couple of the other women were fighting for a title spot again, but she took too bad of a hit back then.
So, not too great of a return for her either.
No, she's still going through it. And then our next match is going to be the tag team champion match, Alba and Isla versus Kairi and Io. Despite the fact that Damage CTRL is such a good team and they do work well together no matter the combination, they're getting some pretty close 2 counts on Alba and Isla, but they keep kicking out. But Alba and Isla kind of have a little bit better teamwork than they expected of them. They were kind of thinking, they're kind of up-and-comers to this main roster still. But Io's in the ring, and Alba counters one of Io's moves and hits a super kick. She's not even the legal person. Isla's waiting behind her, and she hits her cutthroat side slam on Io Sky to get the pinfall and win. And they keep their championship another week.
good to see Alba and Isla dominating again. Although I am curious what your move is going to be with your former tag champions.
Yeah, well, that's one of the storylines that I've been playing around with quite a bit, trying to really nail down for the next couple of months. And this takes us back into the locker room, actually. And Gigi Dolan is sitting with her head in her hands. She's just really upset. She's kind of really down on herself at this moment. And suddenly the lights are flickering on and off. And they cut out for a second. And when they come back on, there's just a letter on the ground near her that she picks up before it cuts to break.
Oh, interesting.
We'll have to see where that goes.
Yeah.
So then that takes us to a singles match that was made official backstage. And this is going to be one of the last matches here. And it's Dijak versus Ludwig with Gunther at ringside. And Dijak comes out pretty strong. He's hitting a bunch of strikes. He hits a big boot on Ludwig, and he's kind of just dominating the match. Ludwig's a pretty technical guy, though, and he ends up getting back into the match, getting a couple good grapples, and trying to lock in a couple different submissions just to kind of wear Dijak down. He's really targeting Dijak's legs. And Gunther's just at ringside, just really close to the ring, watching as close as he can. And occasionally he's taking a couple little shots at Dijak, trying to like trip him up on the sides as he's near the ropes. And despite this, though, despite the like Kaiser targeting Dijak and Gunther trying to distract him, Dijak just keeps powering through, and he ends up hitting his Feast Your Eyes finisher on Kaiser and gets the pinfall there. And Gunther is just very not impressed with this moment.
Really what his finisher is called?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is. I hadn't used that finisher of his in any of our writing so far, and that's what it's called, yeah. But
Awesome.
that's what he hit. He hit that. Gunther's just really disappointed looking and kind of angry, too, because he got attacked as well.
Smug face of disappointment.
And then this will lead us into the last thing of the night. And Randy Orton comes out, and he's calling out JD, and he's like, you know what? Finn said I have to get through you to get back to that World Heavyweight Championship I want to rematch for. I want my second shot at Finn. So get out here and let's go one-on-one right now. But instead of JD coming out, Damian Priest comes down the entrance ramp. And he's just like, hold on, Randy. Let's not forget that I was the World Heavyweight Champion before Finn was. I didn't get a rematch because you had your King of the Ring match. I stepped aside so that you could have your moment, but I want my rematch. Like, this isn't all about you. You had your one shot that you earned, but I want my rematch. It was my title. You might be looking to get through JD to get to Finn, but you've got to go through me first. And at this point, Damian's in the ring face to face with Randy, and Randy's like, "You don't scare me, Damian. You're nothing. I've gotten through so many more people to get to where I am now. There's no way that you're going to be the one standing in my way." And they're both just staring each other down, and Damian starts to turn his back, and that's when Randy grabs him by the shoulder, flips him around, and hits his RKO. And as he does that, Finn is at the top of the entrance ramp just staring down Randy from the top, and the two of them are just eyes locked as the show closes.
Gotta watch out for those RKOs, Damian.
Yeah, he thought this was all about him and he'd be okay, but he took a hit, and that's how SmackDown ends this week.
As it should. Randy Orton in an RKO. It's an American pastime.
That's what America needed in this moment.
Yeah. All right, so we will move on to the August 19th Raw. And if I'm not mistaken, this is 2 Raws before the Bash in Berlin. So we're kind of heading that way.
Yeah, it's coming up really quickly, I feel like.
Yeah. All right, so Raw kicks off. Cody Rhodes' music drops. Crowd singing his song. He goes to the middle of the ring to welcome everyone to Raw and kind of address his match at Bash in Berlin with Drew McIntyre. He essentially says he's not going to let anyone take what he fought so hard for. It took him 2 years to finish his story, and one match in Berlin isn't going to change that. He says 2 weeks is all that stands between us at Bash in Berlin, and he knows he's stepping into the ring with one of the most dangerous and determined superstars in the industry. And that's when Drew interrupts him and says, Cody, I'm happy you finished your story, but your fairy tale ends at Berlin, and he's going to leave Europe as WWE champion. They kind of lock eyes real close, middle of the ring, and Cody raises his title. The fans really cheer. Drew looks like he might do something, but he actually keeps his calm, and the camera kind of fades out of him and goes to break.
Solid opening to the show.
When we come back, we have a 6-man tag match, actually. So The Miz and Kofi Kingston, who won the tag team titles at SummerSlam, are teaming up with Xavier Woods, so essentially the New Day and The Miz. And they're going to fight the IFC because Kevin Owens and Ilya Dragunov attacked the champions from behind last week, kind of demanding a title shot. And match is chaotic right away. It kind of starts in a brawl between all 6 men. Kofi starts out the match, and he starts real strong. His balance is kind of thrown off Dragunov, who's kind of used to being the quicker superstar in the ring. But eventually it doesn't matter for Kofi. He's a little undersized, and the IFC is kind of just a couple guys who like to fight. And they're kind of using more brutality than people thought. Sheamus is hitting his big clotheslines and his kicks. Kevin Owens, the prize fighter, is really just stomping out competition. And eventually they kind of isolate The Miz. He gets hit with a pop-up powerbomb, and they almost end the match right there. But Kofi actually recovers, and The Miz is able to tag him, and he hits his Trouble in Paradise right away on Sheamus and goes for the cover. The crowd's counting with the referee, and right at the last second, Dragunov takes out Kofi and breaks the pin, actually, with a Torpedo Moscow, kind of stunning the crowd. Owens gets into the mix. He hits The Miz with a stunner. They tag Sheamus in, and he's kind of just waiting in the corner for his bro kick. And he takes out Xavier Woods, covers him, and gets the 3 count.
That was a great match, honestly.
Yeah. Be a fun match to see in real life.
Yeah, it would be.
All right, so we're going back to CM Punk's kind of open challenge that he started last week and actually got a huge victory against Seth Rollins. He comes out, he gets on the mic, and he says, if anyone wants to face the best in the world, come down here, and I'll show you what it's like to be in the ring with me. And Chad Gable's music actually hits. Crowd's kind of surprised, but this match is actually super technical. Punk and Gable are real technical guys, and it pushed Punk's to the limit, and there's been several near falls between the two. In fact, Gable at one point almost wins with his Chaos Theory, and he gets CM Punk in his ankle lock in the middle of the ring, and it looks close. Punk is able to break the fall with the ropes, and Punk rolls out the ring, kind of recovering, give himself some time. Chad stands in the ring for a little bit, thinking about letting the count out happen, but he goes out the ring and throws Punk back in. He slides back in, and he doesn't know Punk was kind of playing possum with him. He gives him a kick to the gut, and he puts him up for his go-to-sleep finisher, hits Gable with it, and gets his 3 count and wins. And right when the match is over, he grabs his mic and says, my journey to the back isn't over. I'm going to keep fighting anyone who steps up, and whoever wants some of this next week can meet me in this ring. And he kind of throws the mic down, his music hits, and he walks backstage.
That is a very surprising match. And I'm so confused because somehow Chad Gable is always so heavily featured, yet still somehow so underrated as a wrestler.
Yeah. I almost forgot that he wasn't American made in my universe. I'm like, the Alpha Academy's still together. So I had to remind myself writing that match.
Yeah, no, I was trying to remember like a couple days ago if he still had them together or not.
Yeah. And this goes to a backstage interview with Paul Heyman, who we haven't heard from in a couple weeks. And it's about Roman Reigns. He's been gone for a while since WrestleMania, and they're asking Heyman, like, have you heard from him? Do you know when he's coming back? And Heyman, being the master of words that he is, evades the question, stating that Roman's business is his own, and when he returns, when he wants, the WWE Universe is going to feel his presence. He kind of redirects the questions to Jacob Fatu, and he said, what I want to talk about is how Jacob Fatu is going to beat LA Knight for his Intercontinental Championship. The Bloodline is going to take back our tag team titles, and all will be right in the world. And he kind of does his classic, thank you, and walks away.
Okay. Interesting.
And this leads into a tag team match with LA Knight and Sami Zayn teaming up to take on Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. Match kicks off kind of back and forth. The crowd obviously like really behind Knight and Zayn. And they start strong. They're high energy, tagging each other back and forth. Solo is getting outmaneuvered by Sami, who's pretty agile in the ring, and LA Knight is more powerful, I think, than Bloodline expected. So they're in for a bigger fight than they thought. But eventually, Fatu and Solo kind of slow the action down and take control of it. They isolate Sami into the corner, and they're punishing him anytime the ref looks away. They're using dirty hits from the side. But eventually Sami's able to duck one and run over and tag LA Knight, who comes in real hot. Comes in, clotheslines both guys. He's taking them both out. Match eventually slows down, and Bloodline regains control, and Solo is actually about to try to hit his Samoan spike on LA Knight. But Sami Zayn out of nowhere hits him with this haluva kick, and it knocks Solo out of the ring. LA Knight takes this opportunity. He hits his BFT on Jacob Fatu and covers him and gets the win.
I'm trying to decide if I'm surprised by that finish or not. My brain just kind of short-circuited, and I'm like,
Well, AJ Styles lost to Tama Tonga last week, so
yeah.
This has kind of been a back and forth brewing thing here.
Yeah, and I much prefer the back and forth with the Bloodline rather than them just fully dominant with their current roster.
All right, and then we cut to backstage where Jackie Redmond is with Becky Lynch and ask her about Lyra Valkyria and how she's feeling a couple weeks out from SummerSlam. And Becky says, Lyra thinks she's made the smartest move of her career by turning on me, but all she's done is awaken the man. At Bash in Berlin, I'm not just going to beat her. I'm going to remind her who the hell I am. And before she can finish another question, Lyra out of nowhere blindsides her, slams her in a steel chair, uses a steel chair and hits Becky in the back. Becky drops to her knees. Lyra hits her with a knee, kind of throws in a couple stomps and stands over her. And she says, you're done, Becky. You think you're still the man? I'll show you who the real star is at Bash in Berlin. And Lyra kind of just tosses the steel chair on top of Becky and says, this is where your story ends.
That's brutal.
Yeah. And this takes us to our main event of the night. Cody Rhodes is going to team up with Seth Rollins, and they're going to take on Drew McIntyre, the number one contender, and AJ Styles, who has a lot of history with Cody Rhodes, has lost a couple title matches against him. Match starts with Cody and AJ in the ring. They're locking up. Gets real technical moves. AJ's trying to push the pace and use his high flying ability to get the advantage on Cody. But Cody keeps countering everything, and Styles is getting frustrated. So they both kind of tag their partners in, and Drew and Seth are in the ring. And Drew really dominates Rollins early on. He's hungry for his title shot. He's just using his strength to kind of wear down Rollins. But at one point, Seth is able to duck a big boot attempt from Drew, and he's able to tag Cody back in. And Cody kind of takes back the momentum, eventually leading to Seth going for a stomp on AJ Styles to try to win the match. But right before he hits it, AJ kind of rolls out of the way, and Drew out of nowhere hits him with this like devastating clothesline, and Seth rolls out the ring. Cody sees it happen. He comes in, squares off with Drew, gets going with his speed, hits him with a disaster kick, starts pumping up the crowd, but he doesn't notice that Drew sort of rolls towards AJ Styles and is able to tag him in. And when Cody turns around, he gets hit with a phenomenal forearm. AJ goes for the pin, but Cody kicks out at like 2.9. Seth Rollins, he's kind of recovering out the ring. And Drew kind of being rolled out the ring. They start kind of brawling out there, and Seth is able to kind of get the advantage of him and throw him in the steps and take him out of the match. And AJ Styles sees this happening. It kind of distracts him, and when he turns around, Cody gives him a taste of his own medicine and surprises him and locks him in for the Crossroads finisher. And he hits it, and he gets the cover, and Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes, against all odds, working together, secure the win.
I know you don't like your champions to take losses, like when we watch WWE, but I almost thought Cody was going to lose on that phenomenal forearm hit.
Yeah. I don't mind my champions losing tag matches, but the way I'm building the story is I thought it made sense for Cody to win. And Seth has been taking losses lately, so I wanted to get Seth Rollins a win. Drew doesn't need it. He's getting his title match. AJ could probably use a win, but he's in the big picture right now. Find out what I do with AJ. Big plans for that guy.
I'm very interested because I don't know if we've really been talking about a lot of our stories as in-depth as we usually do to each other.
Yeah.
So our last few episodes have been more of a surprise.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is fun. But I'm just so impatient to know these things. But this is probably the closest we've been to that hour mark in quite a long time.
Yeah.
We did good this episode. We did good. Our 6 listeners are going to be so happy with us.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, to our 6 listeners, make sure you keep sharing and telling your friends to subscribe and listen to Wrestling is Fiction. Our stories are getting better every week as we build on top of them, learn to become better writers. And I'll send it to Mr. Steven here to shout out his socials, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, so another good week, a couple more episodes. I think we're going to be starting to get back on track with our recording schedule. So yeah, just if you want to keep following us, our episodes go up on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, and Amazon weekly. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, hit the share button, and post it on your Instagram story. Share it to some of your Facebook friends. Message it to someone that watches WWE. That helps us a ton. And then As usual, you can follow me at Darkstar Shady on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm hoping to do a couple little TikTok lives in the next week or two where I'm just playing a game with one hand, hopefully. So feel free to go watch and chat. I like to interact with the chat there, and I have a few people that come in just to talk about this show when I do lives there. So it's a good place to share some of your thoughts as well. And we'll see you guys next week with another episode.